The shuttle drifted slowly toward Virilia Prime, the shining core of the Galaxy Council. Lights from hundreds of docking bays blinked like stars across its massive surface. Commander William Voss stood by the viewing window, hands behind his back, watching the artificial planet grow larger in the void. He had been here before, many times. But this visit felt different. He could feel it in his gut, an unease that had nothing to do with the cold metal floor beneath his boots. Earth's place in the galaxy was changing, and not for the better. The docking clamps locked with a dull thud. A soft voice came over the shuttle speaker. Ambassador Voss, welcome to Virilia Prime. Proceed to Council Hall 9. He stepped out, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, crisp and clean. Around him, the port buzzed with activity. Aliens of every kind moved through bright corridors, speaking in many tongues, their voices rising and falling like waves. But none of them looked at him. They didn't nod. They didn't greet. They simply moved past. He was used to it now. Once, when Earth joined the Galaxy Council, humans were seen as promising. Tough, curious, innovative. But over time, Earth's influence faded. They lacked the wealth of the Jared Hans, the fleets of the Rock, or the psychic talent of the Miraji. Earth became a background player, tolerated but not respected. William knew it. Everyone did. At the entrance to Council Hall 9, two tall Vorgan guards blocked his path. They stared down at him with emotionless yellow eyes. One scanned his ID chip without a word. Then the doors opened. Inside, the chamber stretched high and wide, built from silver glass that shimmered under soft white light. A circular table floated in the center, surrounded by seats shaped to fit the many species of the council. William's seat, marked with Earth's faded blue crest, stood alone on the outer edge. He took his place quietly. The session began without ceremony. High Director Zeltar, seated in the central position, raised one hand. We begin today's review of interstellar trade disputes, Zeltar announced, his voice smooth and slow. First item, the petition from Earth, requesting independent access to trade routes in the Sarnak sector. William pressed a button on his console. His voice echoed through the chamber. For decades, Earth has been forced to route shipments through Gerathan-controlled space. This has caused repeated delays and unfair taxes. We seek direct passage through the neutral Sarnak corridor. Murmurs rose among the delegates. The Jarethan ambassador, a thin creature with glistening orange skin, hissed and waved his fingers. Sarnak space is unstable. Humans lack the navigational systems required. Their presence will only increase risk. Another delegate chuckled softly. Others nodded. William kept his tone steady. Earth has developed new long-range scanners. Our ships are more than capable. We are asking for fairness, not favors. Zeltar looked up slowly. The council will vote. It took less than a minute. The results appeared on the screen. Earth's request was denied. Again, William sat back in silence. He wasn't surprised. This was the fourth time Earth had tried. The council no longer even pretended to hide their contempt. Zeltar turned his head toward William. Earth may submit a revised petition in one cycle. William stood. Earth may not wait that long. The room grew still. Even the buzzing translators paused. Zeltar narrowed his eyes. Is that a statement of intent, Ambassador? William didn't answer. He simply turned and walked out of the chamber. Back in his private quarters, William activated a secure link to Earth. The president appeared, her face calm but tired. They denied it again, he said. I assumed they would, she replied. It's time. William paused. Are you sure? Yes. Begin preparations for withdrawal. Quietly, he nodded. As the screen dimmed, William stared at his reflection. He thought about Earth, its history, its people, its dreams. They had always wanted a place in the stars. And now, maybe, they'd have to take it for themselves. The cold silence of Virilia pressed in around him. Virilia Prime never truly slept. Its endless lights stayed bright through the cycle, and corridors hummed with life. Yet deep inside the station, far from the public eye, shadows stretched long and quiet. It was in these places that secrets moved. Commander William Voss walked the halls with purpose, but not haste. He had changed from his formal ambassador uniform into a simple gray suit, nothing that marked him as important. He wanted to go unnoticed tonight. The message from the president still echoed in his mind. Begin preparations for withdrawal. Quietly, he knew what that meant. Earth was done playing the Council's game. But leaving wasn't as simple as walking out the door. The Council would resist. Some members might even take action to stop them. If Earth left, others might follow, and the Council couldn't afford that. William took a side path leading to the lower levels of the station, where the diplomatic archives were kept. This section was quieter, less monitored, and most importantly, outside the Council's main security net. A figure was waiting for him near a sealed doorway. A tall, thin alien with pale skin and 4 gently swaying head tendrils. "Hey," William said quietly. "Thanks for coming." The Cerealian scientist nodded. Her voice was soft but fast. "You're being watched, William. More than usual. I expected that. They know something's changing. They don't know what, but they're nervous. Zeltar has increased surveillance on your sector." William glanced at the sealed door. "That's why I asked you here. I need access to any restricted protocols tied to Earth, military, trade, diplomacy. I want to know what they're planning if we leave." They hesitated. "You think they'll try to stop Earth?" "I don't think. I know. I just don't know how." She looked around, checked her wristband, then pressed a small device against the lock. The door opened with a faint click. Inside was a narrow room lined with data ports. They moved quickly, her long fingers tapping commands into a console. William stood watch near the entrance. The walls hummed softly. "These files are deep," they said. "Not normally accessible to anyone outside the Executive Council." She typed faster. After a few minutes, her eyes narrowed. "Found something. It's labeled Directive Silex. Military protocol. Highly classified. Tied to Earth's orbital defense grid." William stepped closer. "What does it say?" "It's encrypted. But from the metadata, I can see it was activated 2 cycles ago. That's recent." And she paused, scrolling further. "It's connected to the Council's emergency security framework. That means it's designed to act fast. No debate, no vote." William felt a chill creep through him. "You're saying if Earth makes a move, they can shut down your satellites. Maybe worse. And no one would stop them." William's fists clenched at his sides. He had served in Earth's orbital fleet. He had walked those satellites, guarded them. They were Earth's first and last line of defense against any deep space threat. They looked up. If you confront them directly, they'll deny it. You need proof. Hard proof. This data alone won't be enough. "I'll get it," Williams said. "Whatever it takes." They placed a small data chip in his hand. "This is what I could pull tonight. Be careful. If they find out you have this, they won't hesitate." He gave a small nod. "I know. And thank you. You didn't have to do this." She gave a half smile. "Maybe not. But Earth is not the only world the Council mistreats." They left the archives quietly, each taking a different exit. William returned to his quarters by a long, indirect path, always checking for signs of a tail. None that he could see. Still, he didn't rest easy. Hours later, as he sat in the dim light of his room, the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. Earth's repeated failures at the Council weren't just politics. They were part of a long, deliberate strategy. Isolation, denial, pressure. And now, covert control. William looked out the window at the stars. He had been raised to believe in unity between species. He had believed the Council was the path to peace. Now he wasn't so sure. The time for speeches was over. He would need to act. Smart. Quiet. Fast. Because someone, maybe many someones, were already watching. The Council Tower loomed over the center of Virilia Prime like a blade pointed at the stars. It was there, deep within its core, that secrets were buried, secrets Commander William Voss needed to uncover. 2 days had passed since they gave him the data chip. He hadn't slept much. His nights were filled with silent calculations, planning his next steps. What he had wasn't enough. The Council would dismiss it as misinterpreted records, or even accuse him of forgery. He needed something irrefutable, a complete version of Directive Silex, with proof of who approved it and when. That meant getting into the Council's restricted archives. Not an easy task. Virilia Prime's upper levels were watched constantly. Facial scanners, voice recognition, motion detectors. Even the air was sampled for unauthorized biomatter. But William knew the rhythms. Years of moving through the station had taught him its patterns. How to look like you belonged, how to blend in, and most importantly, where the blind spots were. He moved at night, dressed in a black utility suit, no ID tags. He used a maintenance shaft to access a low-traffic corridor near the executive archives. The corridors here were quiet, too quiet. Even footsteps echoed like thunder. Outside the archive chamber, he waited behind a service panel, watching the guards rotate. Two council security agents stood at the door, armored, armed, and unreadable. But they left their post every 47 minutes for a sensor check on the east wall. He waited. The moment came. The guards turned and walked down the corridor. William counted to 3, then slipped out of hiding and moved toward the door. He pulled out a thin card, a forged access key created with Thay's help. The scanner blinked once, then turned green. He was in. The room beyond was silent and dark, lit only by the glow of information terminals lining the walls. It felt cold, not from temperature, but from the weight of secrets locked inside. He crossed to a console and inserted the chip they had given him. The interface lit up. William began searching. Council protocols, military files, classified operations. It took time, but he found it. Directive Silex. The file was heavily restricted. Not just locked, buried. Multiple authorizations, encryption layers, internal firewalls. Someone didn't want it seen. He cracked through the first level, then the second. Finally, the file opened. He stared at the screen. Directive Silex had been quietly activated by High Director Zeltar and 4 other council heads. Its purpose was simple and brutal. In the event of Earth's withdrawal from the Galacxy Council, Protocol Silex grants full authorization to disable Earth's orbital defense systems, disrupt communications, and neutralize potential retaliation capabilities. Initiation of the directive is to be executed within 48 hours of Earth's formal declaration. It was worse than he imagined. They wouldn't just block Earth's satellites. They would isolate the planet, cut it off from allies, blind its defenses, and leave it exposed. No warning, no chance to resist. He downloaded the full file, including the authorization logs with names, timestamps, and council signatures. Hard proof. Suddenly, the lights flickered. William froze. The terminal beeped, a soft alarm he hadn't triggered. Someone had noticed the breach. He yanked the chip free and turned to run. As he reached the hallway, a sharp voice echoed through the corridor. "Stop right there. Council security." He sprinted down the corridor, heart pounding, boots slamming the metal floor. A bolt of red light shot past him and scorched the wall. He ducked into a narrow vent access and dropped through a maintenance chute, rolling onto a lower level. Alarms rang out behind him. He kept running, cutting through unfamiliar service corridors until he reached a quiet section of the station. Only then did he stop. His chest heaved with effort. His shirt clung to his back. But in his hand, the chip glowed faintly. Inside it was everything. Proof of the council's betrayal. He had it. Now the real danger would begin. Back in his quarters, William encrypted the data 3 times and sent a secure signal to They. She would know what to do if anything happened to him. He looked at the stars through the window. For the first time, they didn't seem peaceful. They looked like they were watching. The next morning, everything felt different. Commander William Voss stood by his small window, sipping a bitter cup of synth coffee. He hadn't slept. The chip containing Directive Silex sat in a hidden compartment beneath the floor panel. Outside, Virelia Prime turned slowly above the blue flare of the nearby star, but the calm was an illusion. He could feel the storm coming. He had the truth. And truth, in a place like this, was dangerous. His communicator buzzed. It was They. Her voice was sharp and fast. "They know. The archive breach was detected. The Council's internal alert level is rising. Security patrols have doubled. You need to act now." "I know," William said calmly. "I'm going to take it public." "Are you sure?" she asked. He paused. "If I don't, Earth will never be safe. They'll never let us go quietly." They sighed. "Then you need to move fast. I'll arrange access to the communications hub. It's isolated, old tech. Less likely to be intercepted." "Understood," he said. "And they thank you." The line went dead. William retrieved the chip, tucked it deep inside his jacket, and stepped into the corridor. He took no direct paths. He passed through engineering levels, storage units, even in used construction halls, avoiding cameras and checkpoints. It took almost an hour to reach the maintenance level beneath the Council's main broadcast tower. They was already waiting inside the dusty control room, tapping commands into a flickering terminal. "This link connects to 6 non-council media networks," she said. "Once it's out, it can't be erased." He nodded and inserted the chip. On the screen, the Directive Silex file opened again. This time, it was ready for the Galacxy to see. He added a short message. This is Commander William Voss of Earth. The following document reveals an active Council directive designed to shut down Earth's defenses and cripple its independence if we choose to leave. Read it. Understand it. Then ask yourselves, if they can do this to us, who's next? He pressed send. The file launched into the network like a signal flare in the night. An hour later, chaos erupted. The council hall trembled with noise. Delegates shouted. Screens flashed. Dozens of species demanded explanations. The document had spread fast, leaked across 6 systems in minutes. Zeltar called for an emergency session, but no one listened. Too many eyes were now watching. William never made it back to his quarters. Security was waiting. For guards intercepted him near the observation deck. No warning, no charges, no explanation. They cuffed him, silenced him, and dragged him through the private halls of the council. He was locked in a cold, gray room with no windows. A small light blinked on the ceiling. It watched him silently. Hours passed. Then the door opened. Zeltar stepped in, calm as always, wearing his usual silver robes. He stared at William like one would study a broken tool. You broke council law, he said softly. I exposed a crime, William replied. Zeltar tilted his head. Do you think the Galacxy cares about your truth? Order must be preserved, even if it means lies. William met his eyes. Then your order deserves to fall. Zeltar gave no reply. He simply turned and left. The door locked again, but it was too late for him. Outside the cell, news networks flashed with images of William, quotes from the leaked message, and growing support from smaller, often ignored species. Rallies broke out in the outer colonies. Civil groups in at least 3 systems demanded that their own leaders disclose hidden council directives. They, hiding far from the main decks, watched it unfold. She uploaded additional files linked to Directive Silex, internal emails, recordings, vote records. The fire grew hotter. On Earth, the president stood before a crowd and said 5 words that changed everything. Earth is leaving the Galacxy Council. The hall exploded with cheers. Back on Virilia Prime, William sat in his cell, smiling slightly for the first time in days. The price of truth was high, but it had been paid, and the Galacxy was finally listening. Virilia Prime trembled, not from war or storm, but from something deeper. Truth. The leak of Directive Silex had lit a fuse that no one could put out. Every corridor buzzed with whispers. Every screen flashed with headlines. Delegates spoke in sharp, nervous tones. Some demanded justice. Others called it treason. But all agreed on one thing. The council's mask had slipped. Commander William Voss sat in his cell, silent and steady. The small room was cold and bare, but he didn't care. He had done what he came to do. He had exposed the council's secret, and Earth had responded. He'd seen the broadcast just before his arrest. The president's words still echoed in his mind. Earth is leaving the Galacxy Council. That sentence had shattered a century of diplomacy in one stroke. The door to his cell opened with a hiss. A familiar face stepped in. It was they. Her face was tense. I pulled some strings. You have 1 shot to get out. William stood up slowly. What happened? The council is falling apart. Zeltar tried to call for sanctions against Earth. Half the room walked out. Riots have started on 3 colony stations. Security is stretched thin. I used the distraction. Where's Zeltar now? William asked. Emergency session. He's demanding they declare Earth a rogue system. William nodded. Then that's where I need to be. They stared at him. Are you serious? Yes, he said. I'm not sneaking out. I'm walking in. She hesitated, then handed him a cloak. Then wear this. It'll at least get you past the outer guards. The Grand Assembly chamber was chaos. Dozens of alien leaders shouted over each other. The central lights blinked red, indicating emergency status. Some seats were empty. Others were surrounded by security drones. Above it all, at the center platform, stood High Director Zeltar, his voice steady but rising with every word. We must not let a single world break the chain of unity, he declared. If Earth is allowed to abandon the Council, others will follow. This leak was an attack. It was meant to divide us. Murmurs spread through the room. Some agreed. Others shook their heads. Just then, the side door opened. William stepped inside, throwing off the cloak. The room fell silent. He walked with calm purpose, straight to the center floor, past stunned guards, and stood across from Zeltar. The 2 men, human and alien, faced each other beneath the council dome. You are not welcome here, Zeltar said coldly. I was elected to represent Earth, William said. And I'm here to finish that job. The Miraji ambassador, a being of shimmering light, raised her hand. Let him speak. Others nodded. Zeltar's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. William took a breath and turned to the room. You've seen the directive. You know it's real. You've seen the signatures. The vote. The intent. Earth was never treated as an equal. We were tolerated until we asked for freedom. He looked slowly around the room, meeting every eye he could. We came to the council for unity, not control. But unity built on fear isn't unity. It's submission. A voice from the crowd shouted, You leaked classified data. I exposed a threat, William replied. Not just to Earth, but to any world that dares to question this council. Silence. Then, one by one, smaller representatives stood. The Kellen, the Arvaxi, even the Varn, who had never spoken aloud in council history. One of them said softly, We support Earth's right to leave. Others followed. Zeltar stepped forward, furious. This will destroy everything we built. William looked at him calmly. Maybe. Or maybe it will force us to build something better. He turned away and began walking toward the exit. No one stopped him. Not a word. Not a hand raised. No guards moved. He left the chamber as the voices behind him rose, some arguing, some agreeing, but all shaken. He walked alone through the long, curved corridor, past tall windows filled with stars. He didn't feel fear. He didn't feel regret. Only certainty. Earth had walked out of the council. Not quietly, but boldly. And nothing would ever be the same again. The news spread faster than light. Earth had left the Galaxy Council. Not quietly. Not under threat. They had stood, spoken, and walked away with the eyes of 1,000 worlds watching. What followed was not silence, but waves. On Virilia Prime, protests erupted in the lower levels. Workers marched with banners lit in red and blue, shouting demands for justice and transparency. Small colonies that had long lived in the Council's shadow saw Earth's departure as a signal. A call. In the Outer Rim, 3 minor planets paused their Council contributions. Trade stations refused Council ship-stocking rights. Media channels ran the footage of Commander William Voss facing down High Director Zeltar on a loop. The word freedom found new meaning in dozens of languages. At the heart of it all, William returned to Earth. His ship touched down just outside New Geneva, Earth's political capital, where a crowd had gathered beneath the landing platform. People stood shoulder to shoulder, leaders, civilians, soldiers, families. They didn't chant or cheer at first. They watched. Quietly. Curiously. As if unsure if it was real. The ramp lowered. William stepped out. A wave of applause swept through the crowd. It wasn't loud or wild. It was steady, grateful, and full of something Earth hadn't felt in years, hope. The President of Earth met him at the edge of the platform. Her hand reached out. Welcome home, Commander. He shook it firmly. Earth made its choice. Now we stand by it. The next day, Earth's skies changed. For the first time in generations, orbital beacons flashed with a new frequency, independent and secure. Council satellites were deactivated. Their permissions erased from Earth's networks. Defense grids, powered by new encryption, rotated in quiet readiness above the planet. Earth was alone again, and stronger than it had been in decades. In the Earth Council chambers, William stood before a new assembly, not of alien species, but of Earth's own leaders. He laid out everything, the threat of Directive Silex, the secret meetings, the planned sabotage. Then, he gave them something else. A warning. Don't think our fight is over, he said. The Council won't forget this. They may not strike today or tomorrow, but they will wait. Watch. Look for weakness. A quiet fell over the room. He continued, but that doesn't mean we should live in fear. It means we prepare. We build new alliances. We reach out to the systems that supported us. And we explore what lies beyond Council borders. A senator asked, You mean beyond the Outer Rim? Into the Rift? William nodded. Yes. The Council is only one part of the galaxy. Out there, in the unknown, are new paths, new voices, maybe even new threats, but also new beginnings. That night, William stood alone at a military observatory on the edge of Earth's orbit. The stars shimmered above him, bright and still. He had spent much of his life believing peace came through compromise, through diplomacy, through patience. But sometimes, peace came only after you walked away from the table. A technician approached from behind. Commander, the Rift survey probe is ready. He turned. Send it. The technician nodded and pressed a command. On the main screen, A small probe launched from Earth Station, shooting toward the dark edge of known space. The Rift, a place where council maps ended, where silence lived, where the future waited. William watched it disappear into the black. Earth was no longer a council member. Now, it was something else. Independent, unbound, awake. 6 months had passed since Earth left the Galaxy Council. In that time, the galaxy had changed. Not all at once, not loudly, but steadily, like ice cracking beneath the surface of still water. The Council still held power, but not like before. Its meetings were tense. Its members divided. Some systems withheld votes. Others demanded transparency reforms. And many, quietly, began reaching out to Earth. Because Earth had done what no one else had dared. They had said no. And they had survived. Commander William Voss walked through the main corridor of the Solace, Earth's newest long-range exploration vessel. The ship was sleek, powerful, and designed not for war, but for discovery. He paused at a viewing panel. Beyond the glass stretched the edge of the known galaxy. Ahead lay the Rift, a massive region of uncharted space, where even the Council's maps went dark. No trade routes. No communication links. Just silence, starlight, and the unknown. The Rift had always been considered off-limits. Too unstable. Too mysterious. Too dangerous. But Earth was done waiting for permission. William made his way to the bridge, where the crew stood ready. Scientists, engineers, pilots, each one chosen not just for skill, but for belief. Belief in something more. Status report, he said. The captain turned. All systems green. Probe data is coming in. No signs of gravitational hazards. Just open space. William nodded. Then let's begin. The Solace moved forward, engines low and steady. The stars outside began to shift, the familiar constellations fading behind them as they entered the Rift. Back on Earth, in a high tower in New Geneva, the president stood before a quiet audience. We were told that leaving the council would doom us, that we could not stand alone. But today, we do not stand alone. We stand with the future. Screens behind her showed new trade agreements with independent colonies, peace pacts with former council fringe worlds, even joint research with species who had once ignored Earth entirely. The council had underestimated the power of a free voice. Now they were watching, unsure, as Earth stepped into the void not with fear, but with purpose. On the Solace, the stars grew stranger. Nebulas glowed in unusual colors. Signals pulsed from distant sectors, undeciphered. Planets appeared on long-range scans, some dead, some breathing, some something else. William stood on the bridge, eyes fixed forward. He remembered the council chambers, the dismissive glances, the threats, the moment he walked out. And now he was here, on the edge of everything, at the beginning of something new. He spoke quietly, mostly to himself. We don't need a seat at their table. We'll build our own. As the ship pushed deeper into the Rift, a signal lit up on the console. Unknown, uncoded, faint, but there. The crew turned to William. He smiled. Let's find out who's waiting in the dark. Far from the politics, far from the betrayals, Earth had finally done what it was always meant to do. It had dared to go further. It had dared to be free. It had dared to lead, not just with strength, but with vision.